Living with others has failed. It didn't work out living with family, friends, or significant others. Living is the problem. I prefer death. Sometimes I believe I died or that I'm not real. I've experienced a social death. Now I'm antisocial. Now I'm a loner. I stand alone. But wait a minute. I thought I was a Christian, a sheep. Well, this black sheep went rogue and left the 99 sheep of the sheep pen church. Why? I never really felt like I was one of you. Now I just call myself a goat, and this old goat has had enough. I want pain and suffering to end today, not tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, or 40 more years. I was promised a rapture. I was promised a glorified body. I was promised a feast in heaven and a mansion. I was promised suffering would end. My suffering is extreme and I'm about to bust. Watch out. Hurt people hurt people. I am at a high risk of suicide, and not just that, but I have often thought of taking somebody out with me. My bitterness towards my circumstances with others is bad. I can verbally confess I forgive them or myself, but my bitter feelings eventually return. Rejection and fear of rejection has wounded me deeply and produced the very bitterness that I can never seem to be rid of. I have seen my inner demon when I stare at myself in the mirror. I have seen other inner demons. I have also seen auras or halo. I have been touched and poked by the unseen. There's even been some supernatural activity in some of the environments I lived in. I had to flee one environment because of that and bedbug torture. Lack of sleep drove me insane, and then I had cursed God with some of the most unholy blasphemies that I wondered if I had committed the unpardonable sin. I have often felt that God had abandoned me and turned hell loose on me and allowed demons and spirits to torment me. It's like this dark cloud is always over me, never a happy day. I have lost joy, love, and I'm most certainly not at peace. I'm just a filthy, dirty, rotten sinner who deserves hell for his sins, and hell on earth found me. On another note, this God, Jesus, Satan entity tells me to write or inspires me to write this or that. This entity has many names and they tell me many things. My shrink called it an inner critic, others have said a shitty committee or ego. One time I was directed to write I am statements and I wrote them out and published it on YouTube under Adam Kincaid. At that time I was calling myself Jesus. I was encouraging me to reject my identity and it declared that Adam Richard Kincaid was dead. It encouraged me to call myself Jesus, and for a brief time I did, till those things had spooked some people at the church. Nonetheless, I am a possessed man who has been influenced and partially controlled by demon spirits. I am too afraid to go back to church or deliverance because I would get awful pain in my ribs when it was confronted and would keep coughing. And in some church environments, I would get very uncomfortable and I would leave because it was torture to stay. Some churches I would feel no effect. This is another reason why I don't hardly go to one. I used to stare at myself in the mirror, and when I did, my face would change. I had seen the demon and at least three other faces that my original face would morph into. One time my whole face would disappear. This was just a normal bathroom mirror. I'd stopped doing this and I had become obsessed with my smartphone and selfies and this thirst for knowledge. My smartphone was turning into an addiction. I had finally gotten rid of it as it was um, um, I finally had gotten rid of it as I started noticing that others were had their faces buried in it. It was almost to a point that it spooked me out. Talk about a zombie land. Sometimes I believe I'm a zombie and have a strange curiosity of what a human brain might taste like. But that's just the animal in me, or shall I say cannibal. Sometimes I don't believe that I'm human. I'm just quite the characters of a freak show. I mean, what kind of a freak is awake at 3 a.m.? I have such a poor self-image of myself, and that is what years of verbal abuse does, and you eventually believe the lies that others have said to me. My self-worth is all but gone. My bottom line is I don't really love myself that much, and I can't do much of taking care of myself. I'm just a spiritually immature asshole who didn't grow up like other Christians did. I blame my parents for that, for not keeping me in a church when I was a kid. My parents were a poor example, and sometimes I have resentment about that. I can forgive them, but all the unpleasant abuses are still fresh in my memory. Abuses I had to go through years and years at the hands of others. Um, Now I don't trust others. Others have violated my trust. This is why I'd rather be alone. Hell, I don't even believe in myself. Myself is the problem. I am the problem. I can go from bitterness to extreme brokenness, my dark night of the soul, and I'm a broken mess. I've asked God to forgive me for my anger and bitterness, and I just sometimes don't feel forgiven. I'm most certainly not free from this. My God promised to rescue me and make me a way. I still have no way. I've lost my way and my will to go on. I have lost hope and just can't seem to find it. The blessed hope apparently is a delusion, a highly misinterpreted and mistaught subject. I have grown angry over the rapture doctrine as well as the tithing doctrine. I have heard and heard so many sermons. Part of my problem is I've listened to way too many preachers for the 43 years of existence. Maybe I have heard or read into too many teachings. I have yet to conclude that factions of the church and body of Christ have taught lies, partial truths, and distorted teachings. Distorted teachings. Some churches have went flat out reprobate. I don't lie when I say that. How many churches have embraced and given in to the gay homosexual agenda? I have found some, and for those reasons I have cursed the church, but not the whole church. For some of these reasons and others, I just don't have a solid trust. Trust has been violated. Human institutions are failing. Trust has been violated. People sure as hell don't trust me, and I sure as hell don't trust them. This broken trust in several relationships from many angles has left me alone, scared, angry, sad, depressed, and broken. And when will God fix me? When will I finally be healed, set free, and delivered? When will God rescue me? He promised to rescue me. The unfulfilled promises have been elusive and non-existent for me. Some promises, I know he kept, at least the one about that he will never leave me or forsake me. Where was I at here? Yeah, God is with me. I sense two angels, which is why I don't go to church. Okay, and I wonder, speaking of angels, how many of them are in church in disguise. I also I also sense that they're in the 12-step meetings. Now, I need counsel. I need wisdom on to how to solve my unsolvable problems. My questions remain, but what I want to know is, does God want me to leave this city? I want to know quickly. My patience has run out, and I need a direct answer from God, from His representative. Is it time for me to leave New Mexico, and where would He have me go? I will not settle. I demand an answer. I want to see the promises met now, not tomorrow or a week, a month, a year, 40 more years. I want counsel now. I demand to see God now. I demand answers, and I want to plead my case in heavenly counsel now. I'm so upset that I have been ignored, put off, and asked to wait longer. My breaking point is at critical mass. I will not wait much longer.